Right, so it's been around a year. I've been going through certain things, pain, different kind of pain, like hard time, you could say, right? And what I thought of, I would talk about certain things which I've learned, and not only that, but also how you should approach situations like this, how you should deal with situations like this. So let's talk about it. Because it's very important. One thing I will say, right? It's very important. Sometimes you're in situations, someone, let's say, died, right? And things like that, right? It can be something happened in your life and it's traumatic. Things like that, right? And they can really affect you really deeply, right? And they can mess you up pretty bad. So I would say it's better to know what you should do, like certain things you would like to know, if something happens bad in my life, right? What mindset should I have when I'm going into that? I mean, you're already, if you're into that in that time, hard time, right? But how you should look at that, or how you should look at things as you're in that time that it's hard, and how you should learn things like that. So let's talk about it. First, if I know, I'm first thing, it's not necessarily a lesson, but I just would like to say this first because I know a lot of people, especially in this modern world that we live in, right? You you see people, when you talk about, like, let's say, things happen, right? In life, things happen, and I would say they should happen. Bad things should happen. Obviously, I will say there should be certain limits to that. Uh, that's true, but bad things should happen, and they happen. You cannot control that. That's life. So that's first. That's okay. Nothing wrong with that. And you need situations, and different. You need different situations like these in which you're in pain. It could be physical. It could be emotional. Physical, it could be maybe you had an accident. Now you can't move, right? Now you can't walk, or things like that. Emotionally, it could be maybe someone close to you dies, right? Things like that. You can really mess you up. And one thing I will say, I before this, right? I mean, I would understand, people who would lose their minds. Basically, that's what I mean. When people just who go mad, right? Like, how do you say this? Like, people who go mad, and they're just not okay, right? And I wouldn't say I didn't understand them, but being and you know that going through this, right, time that I've been going through, it has helped me understand that. Because this is an interesting thing. A lot of people do not know, like, if you're going through a hard time, let's say, right, you should know that a lot of people who have not gone through that time will not understand it. The ones who have will, but the ones who have not, they won't understand it. And they might be even giving you advices. Oh, you should do this, you should do that, which won't work. Depends what kind of advice it is, but yeah. So yeah, in situations like these, you hear you hear people talking about, oh, you should do this, you should do that, right? The first thing I would say is to not run away. What do I mean by that? Let's say someone close to you dies, your father, mother, it can happen, it's life. And sometimes like people lose their family, or someone close to them, but it may not really affect them that much, right? Depends on person to person. But also, like, you could be living with someone in your house, right? In your house all your life. Them dying would not affect you that much. While someone who you may have met not for long, like a year, 2 years, 3 years, something like that, right? Or maybe even less, right? But you do, how to say this? But you do feel you connected to that person. You could have a friend, right? You understand that, okay, I have this friend and this friend understands me, things like that, right? So you losing that friend that you had not for that long will affect you more than someone who you lived with your whole life, right? So again, it depends on person from person to person. But point is, if someone, let's say, dies, right? How would you not run away from that? Now, I would like to say a few things, because first, because I can't just say one thing, because if I just say one thing, uh, people might think that I'm just saying one thing, and let me explain that. What I mean is that, like, you should face that, but at the same time, if there are certain things which would, if you do, which you could say that you're facing it, but it might make it harder. And most of the time, it's just you need time, right? You just need time to heal, or whatever word you want to use, right? That's most of the time. That's time. It's just time. With time, you'll be fine. But a lot of times, you, like I said, that you should be able to not run away from it, right? You should not run away from it, and a lot of people do. And that is not the best scenario, because here's the thing, right? If you run away from something, it's there. Like, it might not be in front of you, right? But it is there. you know it will show its effects in different ways in your life if you run away from it. So that's why it's very important to not run away from it. But at the same time, I will say this: if there's a way you look at it which you think that if I'm doing this, I'm facing it, but then that's actually making it harder for you, then you, again, it depends, right? Because things are not black and white. But I do think what I'm saying will make sense, because things are not black and white, right? Yeah. So yeah, that's the first thing, that you should not run away from things. I mean, I kind of did the opposite, to be honest, and I faced the consequences of that. But yeah, I mean, in my case, right, the second lesson relates to this, right? And it's maybe not one, two combined in one, and it's that you shouldn't try to make it things hard. This is funny, right? And it makes me smile, because how I thought in the beginning of all of this, and how I think now. And again, right, if you think this way, because you might, again, it depends from person to person. Because for for someone like me, who's I need to learn from things, this and that. So I might even make things harder. Someone like me would make things harder to, even so they can learn more, this and that. And that can work. Again, things are not black and white, so it depends. Can work, but it can really mess things up as well. Now, in my case, what's crazy is that the pain that I have been in for a year now, and it's not still, and I'm not free of all of this pain that I've been in. And I, to be honest, don't know how longer this will take to get out. Probably half of next year, 6, 7 months more, maybe more than that. I don't know. But what's crazy is that, I understand for people are in pain for a very long time, right? And I understand that. But with my situation, right? What's crazy is that the pain that I have been in, and that it's been way worse than how it was in the beginning, but how the pain was basically how the pain basically when I was in the pain, the beginning of the pain, right? When the pain started, I would not have been in the pain for this long that I am now. The pain would have been around 3 months on max, right? So when I say 3 months, I mean on max. So it would have been like around two or 2.5 months, right? Wait a minute. So yeah, 2.5 months. It's crazy, right? I would have been in the pain for 2.5 months, on max 3, and that's really not a lot. Considering, like, just looking at I've been in this for a year. I would have never thought, right? And it's just crazy to think that you would be a in a hard time for less time, right? But then it's increased a lot more, and yeah. So why did that happen? Obviously, in my case, it was just, first thing I said, that I tried to make it harder. But I wouldn't say that's the reason that it is this uh, long as it is, and how it has been, and how more it's going to be. Is because just what happened, the thing which brought the pain, is just happened over and over again. So it just made the pain worse and worse and worse. That's the reason it just is so long, and it will be for however long it's going to be. But yeah, so that you cannot control, but you can control not making it harder. Now, I did make it harder, but it didn't really do anything. And that was, I didn't do it for long, so that didn't really do much. The reason it was hard was just things happened over and over again. But wait a minute. Yeah, so I think what I was talking about, I don't exactly remember what I was talking about, but something related to the second point, which was to not make it harder. Now, here's the thing. For me, the things I did to make it harder didn't really make it harder. So again, it depends. But and yeah, the reason why would you make it hard? Well, the reason I wanted to make it harder is because I just thought, during the time when I was doing that, I just thought that by making it harder, what I would do is that it would be more harder, and I would be in more pain. And by being more pain, I would be more strong. And by being strong, as time would pass, this pain wouldn't affect me. Now, again, that could be the case, but it's just what basically caused the pain happened over and over again, so that just made it worse and just worse. But for me, yeah, I would say it didn't necessarily make it that much harder, to be honest. But it can, so it depends. Yeah, but I understand, why I wanted to make it harder. And even though that didn't really make it harder, but what I wanted kind of did happen. I mean, I wanted it to be harder, and it's been way more harder than I could ever imagine, right? And I mean, like if I wouldn't really have, like, how it has been, right? Like how it was in the beginning. how the pain was in the beginning and how it has been later, and as it has just progressed, I would really not have even believed it, like how it was in the beginning and how it was later. If I myself, who had the worst of the worst pain experienced later, if I was telling myself the earlier one, when I was experiencing the pain in the beginning, I would not even have believed it. Like it was just like if I tell you, you would not believe it. But my wish, what I wanted, kind of was given to me, so can't really complain, even though, yeah, but it is what it is, right? But you get my point, right? Making it harder depends again. Because it depends, right? In certain situations, that might be helpful, but at the same time, helpful, it will make it harder, no doubt about that. But it's just that if that is what you want, it can make you stronger. That can happen. But you should be careful not to push it to the limit. Depends on what it is again. Again, obviously, if it's, let's say your arm is injured, don't make it harder. Obviously, that's not what I mean. That's not gonna make you stronger. It's just gonna make you weak. So it depends. It depends. Yeah, mine was just emotional pain, right? In the beginning. Now it's still that, but it's just evolved in different ways. So it's not just one thing. But yeah, and yeah, so it depends. Don't make it harder if it's just pointed. Like I gave the example. If it's gonna just if you're not gonna be able to handle yourself, if you make it harder, then don't do that. So yeah, it depends. I know some people would be thinking this way that, oh, I should make things harder so I'm going to be more stronger, but then it depends. So be careful with that. But I would say don't do that. Let time pass. You'll be fine. The biggest thing you can do is learn things from it. Listen, you can go through a very hard time. I could have gone through all of this and I could have learned nothing. That happens. People go through hard times and they don't learn anything. It happens. So it's about reflection. It's about looking at the pain, things like that. Understanding yourself through the pain as well. It helps with that. Agree. If you're observing things like that. So yeah, it depends if you should make it harder, but don't make it harder. Yeah. Again, you should be smart where you should be doing that, where you should not be doing that. But don't do that. Anyway, that's the second thing. Third thing. What's the third thing? Wait a minute. Right. So the third thing, it's not just one thing. I'm gonna include 2 to 3 things in just this one, basically the third point. The first one is when you're going through the pain, this is something you can do, and this is of the things which I've talked about. You should be thinking like that. You should think about what I just said. But also, this thing is important too because it will help you in so many different areas of your life too. And this is while you're in the pain, right? Observe yourself in the pain. How? You know, depends what kind of pain you are. Obviously, physical, it would be different. We're talking about, again, physical can affect on emotional level as well, so that's obviously possible. But with with emotional pain, this can help very well because emotional pain affects your thinking in different ways. So I'll tell you how you can do that. When you're in pain, or you're going through the pain, but let's say certain moments in the day you're not in pain, observe what that's like, how you feel, but not just how you feel. What kind of thinking is, what kind of thoughts are in your mind when you're not in the pain, and you can even write that. And this might seem boring to do, but this will actually help, right? So you can write those thoughts on paper on your phone. What kind of thoughts you have in your mind, right? And when you're in the pain, What kind of thoughts do you have in mind? Write them down. And then you do that over and over again, and you look at them like, what's the difference? There's going to be a difference. And what that is going to do is just you're going to be more observant of yourself when you're going to be in the pain and when you're going to be out of the pain. So what that will do, it will just help you handle yourself better in the pain. And not only that, you're just more aware in the pain, kind of like that. So it will help with that. You'll be able to handle yourself better in the pain. And it's not just that. When you're in the pain, right? Like the moments, like let's say right now you're not feeling pain, you're observing yourself, but then you start to feel pain. You observe that. Again, it might seem boring, right? It might seem boring to do, but it's just that it will help you in the long run. Not just like, even if you may not feel the same kind of pain all your life, let's say that doesn't happen, but it will help you like emotionally, and it will just make you a better person. Like mentally you're going to become strong. Why would that be the case? Why would Wait a minute, getting a little distracted here, interrupted more like. But what I was talking about is how this can help you become mentally strong. And in the pain, out of the pain, observe, feel the pain. Don't try to run away from it. And obviously, again, I don't mean to say if you have pain in your arm, you make it harder. Right? That's not what I'm saying. But if there's something that you need to deal with, that you would just resolve things or anything like that, you should do that. Again, in a lot of situations, that might not be the case. It's just that you need time. So you just need time, right? Yeah, and yeah, so that's the first thing in this third point. And the next thing I would say is, what was the next thing which I thought of? Come on, did I forget already? Kind of. What was it? Talk about observing your thoughts. I don't even remember. But I hope what I talked about helps. And this is important because, you know, in situations like this, you have to make sure you use them to your advantage. Because if you do not use them to your advantage, then what's the point? Yeah, this is actually the biggest thing, right? Like, if you do not learn from this, what's the point of all of this pain? Think about that, right? If you don't learn anything, if you don't become strong, if things like this do not happen, then what's the point of all of this, right? Think about that. There is no point. Then why are you in the pain? Right now, obviously, you can't stop the pain, but for however long that you're going to be in it, you got to make sure you learn things from it. Because it has to have some meaning, right? You're not going through this for no reason. So you have to make sure you learn things from it. Wait a minute. Yeah, so you have to make sure you learn, right? You have to make sure you learn things from it. Because if you don't learn, what are you doing? You go through pain and you don't learn. Listen, pain is a blessing. It's not fun, it hurts. Not fun at all, right? I understand that. But it is a blessing because you can learn things from it and you can make yourself stronger. So in that sense, it is a blessing. It hurts, I know. I mean, like I said, right? In the beginning, for me, it was hard. I'm not gonna say it was easy by any means, obviously, but how it has been just how it was a bit after that, and it just kept on progressing, means just kept on getting harder. Like literally, thoughts would hurt, things like that, and again, right? You gotta learn things from that, right? So in my case, yeah, it got harder, but then I'm not gonna complain about that. Oh, why is it hard? Oh, this shouldn't have happened. I know, right? People, you might be saying, oh, this should not have happened. Why did it happen? Things like that. Listen, here's the truth of life. Things happen, and they just happen. You don't have control over everything. You only have control over certain things, and you should only care about that. The things you don't have control over, you don't have control over. You just don't. That's life, and that's okay. Because there are a lot of things you have control over. You may not realize that, but there are a good amount of things you have control over. So yeah, and yeah, like I said, I understand. Pain can be very painful, but it is a blessing. Again, in my case, it just got worse and worse, and literally thoughts would hurt, right? And again, something that I cannot stop, right? This is another thing. The reason I say would is because evolved, it's not like how it was in the beginning. Thoughts hurting, that how it was in the beginning, it's different now. Again, it's just evolving in different ways. I can't control that. But point is, certain things you cannot control like this. Don't be like, oh, why can I not control this? Why do I feel the pain? This and that. Listen, like I said, certain things you have control over, certain things you do not have control over. Although, like I said, if things are harder, it's a blessing. Learn from it. Again, you say it's not a blessing, it's so hard. That's exactly the point. Because the more hard it is, the more stronger you're going to be. And you can learn things from it too. So, yeah. And again, right, it can be too hard as well. And here's the thing, I'll tell you later. Even if it's very, very hard, you still gotta do what you have to do. Because complaining will never solve anything. I don't think anyone who has achieved anything in life has done it by complaining. So if you sit here and complain about things, if you sit here and you complain about, oh, I'm going through this time, it's so hard. And I understand that, totally understand that. But you don't complain about that. Complaining is not the solution. You learn things from it, right? You learn things from it, you become strong. It's a good thing. But don't sit and complain, why is this happening? Why is this not ending? Right? Things like that. Because listen, certain things take time. It's life. It's life, right? Like I could be complaining. Like if I was not who I am, the kind of person who I am, right? I would be complaining, right? Like I would have lost my mind practically if I was not who I am, right? Because it was evolving in different ways. I would say it's a little easier now, a little bit, yeah, a little bit easier now, but easier. It's yeah, but during the time when it was the most hard, right? If I was not who I am, I would have probably lost my mind, right? So, like, if I was someone who was complaining, right? If I was someone who thought very negatively, things like that. Now, the kind of pain it was, it did make me think negatively in different ways. And it was strong, so it did affect me. I cannot say that it did not affect me, and it does, right? Can't again, denying things is not the way to is not the way. You shouldn't do that. Understand, if something affects you, it does, understandable, but you shouldn't be like, why is this happening? Because listen, complaining never solves anything. You're not gonna get out of this by complaining. And truth, right? Truth be told, for however long you're gonna be in this time, the hard time, right? For however long I'm gonna be, I don't even know, right? Like I'm just guessing next 6 to 7 months, then maybe I will be out of it after that. But then I don't even know. I mean, did I expect for it to be this long? No, I didn't. So I don't even know. But then if I sit here and complain about that, I'm wasting my time. Well, like what I could do is I could learn things from it, right? Because here's the thing: if you complain in one situation, if you complain in the other situation, you don't. You learn things from it. What is happening in both situations? One thing is happening. What? You're going through the pain. Time is passing. You're not. You cannot run away from the pain. You cannot run away from time. That is still gonna happen. So it's better to learn. Complaining is not the way. It's not the solution or anything like that. So yeah, you gotta make sure you don't complain. This is the biggest one, right? And to hold yourself, and again, it depends on what kind of thing you're going through, but if I was thinking negatively, like again, it was just in different ways it affected me badly, this and that, right? So that was the case, but I was able to hold myself, right? And the reason that was the case, right? The reason that I was able to keep myself stable even though I was in pain is because of how I thought, mindset basically. Like not complaining, right? Listen, complaining never solves. I'm saying this again and again because so many people complain too much. People talk about, something happened to you, might say that's not fair. Listen, I don't even believe in fairness or unfairness. It's just life. Listen, again, things are not black and white, but if you look at things as fairness, then nothing is going to be fair. Think about that, right? If you look at your life, oh, this is not fair, my friend, nothing is fair, right? If you want to say, right, oh, I don't, you were not born in a rich family, let's just say, right? That's not fair, you know? You don't have what you want. Let's say you don't have a big house, you don't have a things, whatever you want, right? You don't have, oh, it's not fair, right? I would say that's perfectly fine. Why? Because if you're watching this video, my friend, listen, you have probably a house. You eat, you have a phone, you're not homeless. You have nothing to complain about. Shut up. Like, again, like I said, you have nothing to complain about. Stop complaining. So I hope what I've talked about makes sense. Because listen, complaining is not the way. Complaining will not solve anything. Yeah. So you have to make sure that there are certain ways you think in all of this, like the mindset which I talked about, right? If you think negatively, it's not going to help. And yeah, the fairness, and the unfairness things. Listen, if you look, like, again, you can disagree with me. You can disagree that I'm saying this, that I don't agree with this. But then, does it make sense what I'm talking about? Because here's the thing, from my understanding, right? If I look at things as fair or unfair, right? So many things are unfair. So many things. But then I don't think that way. So things happen and I don't think that they're unfair. It's just life, right? And in a lot of ways, you just think, which it just gives you a lot of it puts, how do I say this? It gives you a lot more tension. It makes you tired mentally as well, like the way you think, right? So I personally do not believe in fairness or unfairness. I don't mean that fairness or fairness doesn't exist, obviously, but And I'm not saying that I would be fair, unfair or anything like that. That's not what I mean. But the way I look at life, things happening, I do not say that, like, let's say something happens, right? It's not fair, right? I don't say that because it's just life, right? The things you don't have control over, you just don't have control over. It's life. And here's another thing, right? Like if you think this way that I'm not rich, I wasn't born into a rich family. My friend, you were born into the family you are. How can you be born in a rich family? Listen, if your parents have sex, right? You're gonna be born like you're the one who is their son. You can't be the son of someone else's family. That just doesn't happen, right? So there's nothing wrong with that. This is not unfairness. There's nothing wrong with this. This is life. And you should appreciate what you have. Listen, if you have a phone, if you have food, what do you have to complain about? And obviously, you don't need a phone, but like, if you have a phone, that means you have other things. You probably have a house. You probably eat. What else do you even need to live, right? Other things you want, you gotta work for them. Stop complaining. So yeah, again, the mindset thing, right? You shouldn't be thinking this way, that complaining, because here's the thing: what you think in the pain can be amplified. So if you think, if you think this way, in the complaining that you're complaining, it will be amplified. So it will affect you a lot more. Now, even though I did not think in this way, it still did make me feel that way because the pain was just on another level, so I can't control that. But I was still able to hold myself, right? Okay, okay. Again, you can't stop from yourself from feeling the pain. You will feel the pain. You you can't do that, right? It's just time. You need time. But the biggest thing is to look at things as okay, things happen. It's all right. And the fairness, the unfairness thing I already talked about. And don't complain. This is the biggest thing, right? People just complain way too much these days. So yeah, that's that. I hope all of this, all of this helps because it can be helpful. Even if you're not going through the pain, knowing these things can be helpful when when you're going through that time. So yeah, I hope this helps. I might again. There are a lot of things which I've learned from the pain, and if I talk about them in one video, it's gonna be hours. So I can't really talk about a lot of things. These are just a few things which just came to my mind. I was just talking, but yeah, and I will talk about this, in a little more depth, the lessons in the future. Probably when I'm out of all of this, all of the pain, whenever that happens, and yeah, because there will be certain things more which I would have learned at that time, so that will be helpful. So we can talk about that as well. And yeah, you should be trying to learn things, not complaining. Complaining doesn't solve anything. And yeah, again, however hard it is, I know you hear this, but to be honest, I don't know. Because, if someone told me with time it would be easier, right? I mean, for me, it was the opposite. So I'd be like, what you said was not true. It was harder. It was way more harder than you could ever imagine. I could never imagine that, right? And like, if I would tell you, right, how it was, right? You as a human being, right? Like how you would experience things, like you wouldn't really believe me because like if you like this like, certain things you go through, you cannot you cannot experience certain things without being in certain situations. Like certain situations affect you the way they do, you cannot know that by being in that. So if you have not went through something like that, you wouldn't understand it, and that's all right. Yeah, because like this is another thing. I mean, I don't like look for like a lot of people. Again, I wouldn't say that you shouldn't do this, but a lot of people would be looking for people to understand them, and which is nothing wrong. You're a human being. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, and I'm not saying I'm I wouldn't say I feel like I've not really talked about this. When you just talk about things in detail with someone, I've not really done that. But I wouldn't say again. Depends. It's my own choice. But if talking helps, I would say this, right. If you have someone who is there for you, who you trust, things like that, that can be really helpful. So that is a good thing. So don't think that is bad. So in situations like this, friends can be helpful. Yeah. Again, what I did, you don't have to do. I've not really talked to anyone about this or anything like that. But when you sit down and talk, and you talk about things in detail, this and that, right? Because I have a good relationship with myself, like a very good relationship. Most people don't have that. And I don't mean that you shouldn't be talking to people. That's not what I'm trying to say here. Yeah. But I hope what I just said makes sense, that if you have someone who's there for you, who you trust, could be anyone, friend, sibling, family, whatever, right? It can be a good thing. So, yeah. For me, all I had was myself. I was there with myself, and I am here with myself, and I will be there with myself, right? Because like you're never alone. You always have yourself. Like people talk about, I'm lonely. I have never felt lonely. I mean, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I've never felt lonely, but I have myself. Yeah, I wouldn't say I've never felt lonely, obviously, but I have myself. So when I have myself, I have myself. And, being with people is nice. But then first you should be okay being with yourself. And most people these days run away from themselves. How? Internet, social media, drugs, alcohol, all of this stuff. You're running away from yourself. You need to sit down. What is going on? What am I doing? Need to do that. But anyway, so yeah, I hope the video helps. Yeah, and the last thing that I just talked about, having someone who you trust, who you can talk to, can be helpful. I will say that it can be. Really can be. Again, I didn't do that, but I do understand it can be helpful. So I know that. Yeah, it can be helpful. So if you have that, that's good. I would, if you have someone who you trust and things like that, probably should talk to that person, because talking, as a human being, it just helps. I have myself, right? Yeah, but you should also develop a good connection with yourself. And so yeah, so that's that. I hope what I've already, what I've talked about helps. And yeah, so and yeah, one last thing. Listen, if even if you have people, a lot of times they may not fully understand you. Yeah, I'm not saying that they wouldn't, but like a lot of times what you're going through, fully you understand that and no one else does, because you're in this and others are not. And I don't mean to say that someone who's not going through that, I don't mean to say they should be going through that. Obviously, that's not what I'm saying. But in a lot of situations, if you try to talk about what you're going through to some people. Again, depends on who you're talking to, that's also anything. Some people might not understand. Perfectly okay, don't judge them for that. But biggest thing is that what you're going through, only you know that, right? You know that. No one else knows that. So this is a good thing. Why? Because it just helps you become a better friend of yourself. And obviously, you can still run away from yourself all the time. People do that all the time. But you can use this time, if it's, if this hard time, or whenever, you know, you go through a hard time in the future, you can use this time to even develop a good connection with yourself, good relationship, good friendship, whatever you want to call that. It's important to have that, because in a lot of situations you can have no one in your life, but having no one will not really mean having no one, because you have yourself. And I don't mean to say that you don't talk to people, that you isolate yourself, things like that. That's not what I mean. Because if you have a good connection with yourself, the way you're going to be able to talk to others, it will be better, because you're not going to be that dependent on them. And again, like I said, it's important to have people who can support you in your life, things like that. Sometimes a lot of us, to be honest, don't. Not that we cannot have that, but a lot of us don't. But in situations like this, you can use this as an opportunity to depend more on yourself. And I'm going to be honest, all of this time has passed, right? I have depended on myself. I've not. Again, I don't recommend this, that I didn't really talk to anyone or things like that. I don't recommend that, but I'm just saying that, so you don't have to do like how I do. But it does help you become more dependent on yourself. And I don't mean to say that if you have someone who can support you, that is bad, and that means that you're not dependent on yourself. That's not what I mean. But I hope what I'm saying makes sense, because here's the thing, right? Yeah, this is the thing which I just said. No one knows what you're going through. They don't know. You only know that. And here's the thing. For me, it's a nice thing, because I just keep it to myself. Right? It's fun. Why? Because, and again, not to say that you can talk about things so you can teach others. So that's obviously that I wouldn't say that you shouldn't in that sense, but I hope what I just said makes sense. Because it's important to keep this in your mind, right? That I'm not repeating myself, because I'm trying to get my point across, and it's that, so you understand what I'm exactly talking about, and that you use this, because what's the point of this? Is that people don't know what you're going through, and you will realize that. And again, some people who have gone through something similar to yours, they will, obviously, but a lot of people won't, and that's okay. And like, if someone doesn't, this is also another thing, if someone doesn't understand what you're going through, but it's there for you, comforts you, supports you, it's a good thing. Even though they may not fully understand it, because maybe they have not been through that. It's okay. You have someone who supports you, right? And you don't judge them that they have not been through what you are going through. Don't say that to people. I'm just saying that because I just said that, what did I say? That a lot of people may not understand what you're going through. But at the same time, it's just that the reason I'm explaining this is because a lot of people, you know, on the internet these days, people, you say one thing and people just take the whole of it and just stick to that. So you have to explain other things as well. So yeah, you know what you're going through. People don't or do, it doesn't matter. Be more dependent on yourself. Listen, like after I've been in this, right? I mean, after when I'm going to be free of this, all of this, that I would be free of the pain and things like that, right? I would be strong. I am strong. I have become strong. And I will say this, right? Even though, if you would show me, right, that how the pain was later, right? If in the beginning of the, like I said earlier, that how the pain would have been, for it would have been around 3 months, then I would be free of that. But it was not the case. Because what just caused the pain happened over and over again, so it just got worse and worse. And if you had showed me, like during the beginning of the pain, like during the beginning, like the first few months, that you had showed me how the pain would be later, but I could control, like I could choose that I don't want to go through that pain, and you wouldn't want to go through that. Why would you want to go through the pain like that? Because it's just messed up, different kind of things, and you wouldn't want to go through that. So I wouldn't have gone through that, right? But then, if I could choose that, but I have learned things. I will be stronger, and I'm gonna be honest. Even if the pain, let's say, wasn't as hard as it has been, and let's just say I was free of the pain in during that time, 2 to 3 months, right? And then I was free of the pain. I would have still learned things, It's not like I wouldn't have learned things, but it's just that it is the way it is, and that helped with becoming strong. Yeah. But then again, at the same time, yeah, it helps with this becoming strong. But then also, if that's the case, then you should probably make this pain more harder, right? No, you shouldn't do that. Again, I did not make the pain harder. I mean, kind of did in the beginning, but it didn't really do much. It didn't really make it that much really harder. Yeah, but again, the things that I've experienced in all of this, it's gonna be hard because, like, I would have never thought the things that I've experienced that I would experience, or things could be even like that. So what that just shows me, like, that I highly doubt that how things have been in this kind of this stage, this year, with the pain and stuff like that. Like, I don't think many things would come close to this, because even this, again, right? Even this would not have been this hard as it is now, right? It would not have been this hard. How it was in the beginning of like the beginning, the first few months, right? It was it was not easy by any means. It was still hard, but compared to later, it was easier, you could say. And like, if you look at these both times, right? Yeah, yeah. What I was saying is kind of in my head. What I was saying is all of the that the pain, right? In my case, how it was in the beginning and how it was later, right? Yeah. I was talking about this. That it would not even have been this hard. That's what I mean, right? Like it wouldn't even have been this hard. So it's not like, again, it was not like it was gonna be this hard as it has been. So that was just the case. So it was not gonna be this hard. So that just would not have happened. It's just that it happened because what caused the pain happened over and over again. So that just made things way, way worse. And that is the reason things were harder. And again, kind of easier now, kind of easier, but in different ways, it's still affecting in different ways. Like you like it. How to say this? Like certain effects, like like the way it works, it it affects in different ways. Like it evolves, like it progresses. The pain progresses, becomes harder and harder. But even now that I am, it's been a year, right? Even now, in different ways, it has its own effect. Even now, it's crazy. That's in certain ways it did not affect, which now it does. So, yeah. So yeah, by being in all of this, right? Not many things would come close to this. Like you go through different hard times in your life, right? So not many things would come close to this kind of pain that I've been through. And again, I would not even have been in this, right? But I have been in this, and most things wouldn't come close to this, right? Because I can get an idea. And again, things can be always harder, obviously. But most things wouldn't be this hard. In a way, it's a good, because, if you go through this, right, you become strong, this and that, and you go through things next time, which are harder, whatever, you wouldn't be surprised. I mean, even if the things are the same as they are now, you wouldn't be surprised. And even if they were harder, I still would not be surprised. But still, most things would not be this hard. Because, first of all, this wouldn't even have been this hard. So, in a way, it's a good thing. Yeah, yeah. But it's, yeah, it can really affect you in different ways, and you would not want that. Who would want that? Right? No one would want that. But this is the point, right? If you had a choice, like if you were going through the pain, right? If you had a choice to not go through it, you would not go through it. But you would not have learned things, you would not have gotten strong, this and that. So that's also another thing. But yeah, again, right? Things can be harder, and can't say how exactly. Like one thing I can say, like thoughts would literally hurt, and still like that. Like thoughts basically hurt. Again, different ways it affects the pain, right? The pain, yeah, the pain. But yeah, so how what I said helps in the ways it does. And in my case, right, the pain, how do I say this? Like, in one way that it would hurt, like thoughts basically hurt. Like you would get thoughts and you would feel pain. And I mean, you would feel pain like it's like, how is it? Yeah. You feel pain that it's even hard for you to breathe. And you just feel heaviness in your chest. It's hard to breathe. You feel pain. And that's like certain thoughts you can get like this, which you have no control over. But you would just get thoughts and you would feel pain like this. So you can't control that. And the only thing you can do is just be patient, right? That's what you can do, right? Like I was just thinking, right? Like the way I was thinking about this is that with time, this thing, the thoughts hurt, this and that, right? It would go away. And how much time I expected, it's been way more long. Like I expected like 3 4 months when kind of pain started, because different kind of pain, it's not just one. So I was expecting 2 3 months, but then it's been, how long has it been? It's been more than 6 months. And yeah, you can't control that, right? So different kind of pain. But I hope what I said makes sense. If you're going through a hard time, what I just talked about, think about this, right? And again, when you watch videos like this on YouTube, don't just watch them, especially videos like this. You should think about, what is this guy talking about, right? Because if you watch this video and then you go and watch another video, what's the point? Because you wouldn't remember what I said. You wouldn't put it into action or somehow use it, right? If you don't use it, then what's the point of this video, right? Yeah. So yeah, that's that. I hope the video helps.